man. I was watching a documentary last night on the 1988 Slam Dunk Contest. I think Brother Kendrick might appreciate this. The 1988 Slam Dunk Contest was one of the best Slam Dunk contests that we have ever seen. They had Spud Webb, they had Dominique Wilkins, they had, of course, Michael Jordan. They had some powerhouse slammers in 1988. I had just made my walk into the world in 1987, so I couldn't really appreciate the 1988 because I was still figuring out how my eyes worked and my hands worked and my legs worked. But in 1988, this awesome slam dunk contest was going on. And what made this slam dunk contest so amazing was the power that was behind some of these dunks. As we watched Dominique Wilkins, who was one of the most powerful dunkers of all time, slam the ball, you could literally hear the rim echo because of the sort of power that was happening at the rim. But we get to the final round of the slam dunk contest, and Dominique Wilkins does a two-handed windmill. And everyone looks. Now, for those of you who don't know, that's when you take the ball and you go full circle all the way around and you slam it. Now, it's hard enough to do with one hand, but this brother jumped so high that he was able to bring both hands around and do it. The whole stadium shook. Folks were like, this is it. Michael Jordan cannot possibly win this slam dunk contest. In fact, he got a perfect score on that dunk. There's like no way that Michael Jordan can come back. And Michael Jordan did something interesting. Michael Jordan went all the way to the other end of the basketball court. And folks are looking and they're wondering, what in the world is Michael Jordan about to do way from the other end of the basketball court? Michael Jordan took a couple of dribbles and he started to run and he picked up his pace and he got to the free throw line. Now, I don't know if y'all know how far away the free throw line is from the rim, but it's quite a distance. And Michael Jordan, this is how he gets his nickname, Air Jordan, jumps from the free throw line, cocks the ball back, and then slam dunks it. Now again, Dominique Wilkins' dunk was powerful, it was loud, but when Michael Jordan dunked that ball, the whole stadium erupted. There was a power at work in Michael Jordan that transformed the game forever. In fact, on the documentary, they said we've had slam dunk contest after slam dunk contest, but there has not been a single slam dunk contest like 1988 because there was a power during that slam dunk contest that the world had never seen before. And I want to argue this morning that there is a power at work in the believers that this world has yet to see. But we have to tap into that power. See, the church has gotten good at putting on pretty, but pretty isn't what's going to change the world. The world is waiting for the body to go to the other end of the court and to take a couple of dribbles and start running and take off from the free throw line called grace and slam dunk on the devil. I don't know about you, but there is a power that I believe has been bubbling up in me from the time this pandemic started. I'm at a place where I'm like, God, I'm ready to lay hands and some folks get up from where they are. God, I'm ready to say some things and I see a manifestation of that, which I have said, I need power for this pandemic. Pretty ain't working right now. What the world is looking for is power. And Paul tells us that we're not waiting on that power. We should be walking in that power. This is what Paul is communicating to the people at Philippi. Paul says, listen, I appreciate all that you have done for me. Can I give you a little Bible history? For those who don't know, this was the first church that Paul actually put together in Europe. So they hold a special place in his heart. And what made the church of Philippi so amazing is that Paul established this church, and they were so blessed by his ministry that this church, no other church did this. This particular church said, Paul, we so appreciate what you've done for us that we're going to fund your missions. That wherever you go, we going to make sure that you got everything you need. And so Paul is writing this letter from prison. He has found himself in Rome, a terrible situation, a terrible circumstance. He's literally facing death. but he's in prison and he's writing this letter, and he's writing to them to say, listen, I appreciate how you've been taking care of me. I appreciate how you've been blessing me to go here, there, and everywhere to preach the gospel. In fact, these folks were so good for him, they were like, we wonder if Paul eaten. And so they sent a brother, a servant to Rome to actually be in the house with him, because Paul wasn't in jail, he was actually on house arrest. And so they sent a brother to go and cook for Paul and to clean for Paul and to make sure Paul, it's amazing the type of favor Paul has even though he's in prison. Paul is in prison, but folks can come cook for him. Folks can come serve him. Folks can come clean for him. I'm so glad I serve a God that even in my bondage I got favor. I don't know about you, but there were times in my life where I felt stuck, but God still favored me. That's a whole nother sermon for a whole nother time. But nevertheless, Paul says, I appreciate the money that you sent me, and I appreciate the brother that you sent me, but the brother then got sick, so I'm going to send him back home. I need him to quarantine because I'm already in prison and I can't get sick. And so he's letting them know, I appreciate everything you did for me, but let me tell you something. As much as I appreciate it, don't get it twisted. If y'all didn't send the money, if y'all didn't send the brother, my God got me. And he ends this part of the letter with what I want to be the emphasis of our study today. He says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. My ability to do things is not based on what you can do for me. My ability to do things is by the power that's in work in me. Today I want to share with you how his strength gives us confidence in the truth that we've already won. And so we've looked at so far in this series that we've already won because he loves us. We looked at we've already won because he's in us. And today I want to tell you that we've already won because he strengthens us. So if you're taking notes, we've already won because he strengthens us. How does his strength give us confidence in the truth that we've already won? Can we break this down a little bit? The first truth I want to give you is that his strength helps us to redefine success. I'm going to give you 3 R's today. And this time I'm actually going to give you 3. I don't have a possible this morning. It's just 3. His strength helps us to redefine. Somebody say redefine. His strength helps us to redefine success. What do I mean? Verse 11 says, I don't say this out of need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I found myself in. How many of us can honestly say that? That no matter where we find ourselves, we good. We ain't going to complain. We ain't going to argue. We ain't going to ask for nothing else. We just good right where we are. No matter where we find ourselves, we can be content. We're going to break that word content down a little bit. Verse 12, I know how to make do with a little, and I know how to make do with a lot. In any and all, he repeats it, in any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret. Somebody say there's a secret to being content, whether well-fed or hungry, whether in abundance or need. Paul, I believe, through this situation, through this circumstance, he's learned the secret of contentment. Now, that's important because I told you Paul is writing this letter from prison. He's writing this letter from a place of bondage. He's writing this letter from a place of uncertainty. He's writing this letter from a place of punishment. And Paul is writing to people who are free. Yes. And Paul, who's in prison, tells people who are free that, listen, I don't know about you, but I've learned in any and every circumstance to be content. Now, what exactly does Paul mean when he says content? I think we all have a particular definition of content, but if you go to the Greek, if you go to the original language, it's the word artarkes, which means satisfied, watch this, or self-sufficient. Now, it's important that we have both of those definitions because we think that content just means satisfied. But again, if you go to the original language, it's not just to be satisfied, it's to be self-sufficient. In other words, it's to not look for success outside of you. So in essence, Paul makes 2 determinations here. Paul stopped measuring his success by where he was, and he also stopped measuring his success by external things. If I had to put words to these for your notes, Paul stopped measuring success by his position, And he stopped measuring success by external things. Let's take this one step at a time. So again, Paul says, listen, in whatever situation I find myself, I'm still winning. I don't have to get to the finish line to win, but if I'm at the start of the race, I'm winning. If I'm a quarter of the way, I'm winning. If I'm halfway, I'm winning. If I'm 3/4 of the way, I'm winning. And if I finally do make it to the finish line, I won. With every step I take, I'm winning. And the problem for believers, the reason we don't walk in the confidence that we've already won is because we've been convinced by the devil that we don't win until we get where we are. Some of us are beating ourselves up because we had a certain age and we thought we would be at a certain place. And the truth of the matter is, my success is not based on the place I thought I would be, but my success is based on the connection that I have to the God who's with me in that place. See, some of you beating yourselves up because you're like, I thought I'd be married by now. Some of you beating yourself up because you're like, I thought I would have started this business by now. I thought I would have written this book by now. I thought I'd have 2-3 kids and a picket white fence by now. I'd have a dog and a goldfish by now. You determine success based on a place because the devil has convinced you that where you are ain't good enough. And Paul is telling them, I'm in a prison, but I'm still winning. And some of us have been stuck so long that we think we're losing because we're not where we thought we should be. Paul says, listen, my success is not based on a place. But wherever I find myself, watch this, it's not where I'm at, it's who's with me. The late, great Bernie Mac was famous for saying, who you with. And the Apostle Paul is pulling from the book of Bernie Mac now. He says, listen, it ain't where I'm at, it's who I'm with. See, I may be in prison, but in prison, I'm still with God. See, I may be poor, but in my poverty, I'm still with God. I may not have a boo right now, but you know what? Until that boo comes, I got God. And so it's not where I am, it's who I'm with. Paul has discovered the secret that it's not a position, it's a person. That my success is not measured by a place, but it's measured by my connection with God. But then he takes it a step further to be self-sufficient. Paul says, listen, I've stopped looking for success outside of myself. I'm not looking for success in cars. I'm not looking for success in houses. I'm not looking for success in groups that I run with. But I'm successful, not by what I have, but again, who I'm with. And so whether I have a lot, it really don't matter if I don't have God. And even if I got a little, that's all right because I got God. So watch this. It's not my condition, it's my connection. And the devil wants to get us to a place where we value the condition more than the connection. But it was Jesus himself who said, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? It's not my condition, but it's my connection. If I can make it plain, some of you are measuring success by windows instead of mirrors. Wow. What do I mean? Wow. Some of you are measuring your success based on how much you can attain from what you see outside of your window. Now, the problem with that is there are many people who have spent their lives chasing what's outside of their window, but they can't handle what they see in the mirror by the time they get it. And I'd rather be somebody who can handle what I see in the mirror and not have what I see outside of my window. Because again, Jesus said, what does it profit a man to gain everything that's outside the window, but you don't recognize who you are in the mirror? Paul says, listen, I may be in prison and y'all may be outside, but here's the difference between me and y'all. I'm good here. Because I got God here. That's probably a good tweetable right now. I'm good here because I got God here. And so no matter where I am, as long as I got God. No matter what I have, as long as I got God. Because watch this, in the beginning was God. And God created. So that lets us know that everything that was created was in God first. And so if I got a connection with God, I have a connection to everything. If I got a connection to God, I have a connection to everywhere. If I got a connection to God, I have a connection to everyone. Why? Because I'm connected to what everything came from. Paul understands that, listen, I may be on house arrest, but I'm connected to a God who owns every house in the world. His strength helps us to redefine success. And I want to ask you this morning, what do you consider successful? What do you consider, as you look back over your life, as the seasoned saints say, what are those moments that you mark as success? And I would argue that none of those moments mean nothing if you don't have God. There's an famous Olympian, who was interviewed when he got to the end of his career. He was going through all of the various Olympic games and was snatching gold medal here, gold medal there, gold medals everywhere. Every competition he was in, he was grabbing gold medals, first place everywhere. And they interviewed him at the end of the Olympic Games, and they said, is there anything that you wish you had known before you got to this point? And he said, yeah, I wish I had known that there was nothing here. He spent his career chasing everything that was outside of his window and realized that everything he needed was right in his mirror. And some of us have to get to a place where we stop measuring life based on what's in the window. Can I help this generation? You may not be looking out the window, but you're looking through the window of social media. And you're considering yourself a failure because your life don't look like the filtered life of someone on Instagram. But if you understood that behind those likes and those loves and those smiley face emojis, oftentimes there's abuse. Oftentimes there's hate for self. Oftentimes there's bills that are past due. Don't stop comparing your success based on what you see out of the window and start measuring your success by how well you can love what's in the mirror. Paul says the reason I've already won is because you and I ain't chasing the same goal. See, what you chasing is fine, but what you chasing, there's nothing in it. And what I'm chasing, if I get that, I can even have what you're chasing. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added. What goal are you chasing? The reason as believers we're not walking in the victory that we've already won is because we're chasing a goal we were never designed to chase. Paul redefines his success. The next reason we're able to walk in this victory of already won is because his strength helps us to realize new possibility. His strength helps us to realize new possibility. So not only does it help us to redefine success, but it helps us to realize new possibility. Now some of you looking at the text and saying, Pastor Mike, where are you getting that from? I don't see it. Let me help you out. Verse 13, he says, I am able to do all things. King James says, I can do all things. I am able to do all things. Paul discovered that the difference between possibility and impossibility was whose strength was being used. I'm going to say that again because I think y'all missed it. The difference between possibility and impossibility was whose strength was being used. Some of us are giving up on certain things because we're like, God, I can't do this. God, I can't make it there. God, I can't carry this. God, I can't handle this. And the problem is not that you can't handle it. The problem is not that you can't carry it. The problem is not that you can't love that person. The problem is not that you can't be patient with them. The problem is not that you can't make it where you're trying to go. The problem is that you're doing it in your own strength. And here's the difference between your strength and his strength. Your strength is limited, but God's strength is unlimited. We serve an omnipotent God. That means he's all powerful. All power is him. And so when I'm connected to God, I'm connected. I have access to a strength that goes beyond my own strength. It's not that it's impossible. It's just you're doing it in the wrong strength. So he's saying, God, I can't be alone. No, you can't. In your own strength. God, I don't think this marriage can survive. It can't in your own strength. God, I don't know if this ministry is going to make it. It ain't in your own strength. God, I don't know if I can get this book out. You won't in your own strength. God, I don't know if I can get this business off the ground. You can't in your own strength. God, I don't know if I can work another day in this office. You won't in your own strength. God, I don't know how I'm going to make it to tomorrow. You won't in your own strength. I'm trying to help somebody. Stop me when I get to your street. God, I don't know if I can raise these kids the way I need to. You can't in your own strength. God, I don't know if I can handle this diagnosis that the doctor gave me. You won't in your own strength. It's not impossible. It's just that you're using the wrong strength. Paul says, listen, the reason I'm good where I'm at is because I'm not here on my own strength. See, I may be in prison, but I'm not in prison based on what I did. I'm in prison because I've been preaching the good news of Jesus. And watch this, if I have to go to jail for Jesus, then Jesus got to keep me while I'm in jail. If I'm going to suffer a loss for him, he got to make sure that I make it through that in his strength. I discovered something actually this morning. I was going to go another direction. But I saw a truck commercial, and I was watching this truck commercial. They were bragging about this feature called a tow or haul mode. A tow, T-O-W/haul mode. And so I started doing some research. I'm like, what is this tow/haul mode? I'm not familiar. I like trucks, but I'm not familiar with all the terminology. And so I went to my good friend Bing. Most of y'all like to go to Google, but I'm a Bing man because I like Microsoft. Don't judge me. So I go to Bing, and I do a search for tow/haul mode, and I went to this website called howstuffworks.com. It's amazing. So I go to howstuffworks.com and they begin to break down what tow/haul mode is. And with tow/haul mode, what happens is that a truck, which is designed to carry stuff, may find itself in situations and circumstances where what it's carrying goes beyond its capacity. And so when what it's carrying goes beyond its capacity, there's a mode, there's a switch that you can flip that will shift the truck to a different mode. And when the truck is shifted into that mode, it does something to the engine where the engine starts to handle the weight a little differently. And no matter how steep the incline may be, some of y'all been climbing up the rough side of the mountain for whatever reason, but no matter how steep the incline may be, as long as the truck flips the switch, no matter how heavy what it's carrying may be, it'll make it up the mountain. Some of you are just like this truck. You're saying, God, I thought you built me to handle this. God, I thought you built me to carry this. God, I thought you built me to walk in this. And God is saying, I did. You're just doing it in the wrong mode. You ain't switched on the switch for the Holy Ghost. Because if you flip the switch for the Holy Ghost, you wouldn't be so tired right now. If you flip the switch of the Holy Ghost, you wouldn't be so wore out right now. If you flip the switch of the Holy Ghost, you'd have a little more patience. If you flip the switch of the Holy Ghost, you could love them beyond their faults. If you flip the switch of the Holy Ghost, you can handle the pressure. Because like the truck, I built you for tough. And because I built you, watch this, you don't have to buy that as an extra feature. This is how good God is. You don't have to buy accessories for that, but it comes in the truck. So when you flip the switch on the truck does not change. The truck does not add anything. The truck doesn't have to put on anything, but the truck simply taps into what God has already put inside of it, and it finds a strength that goes beyond its own to make it to where God is taking it. It's not impossible. It's just that you're doing it in the wrong strength. And some of us would sleep so much better at night if we would just flip on the switch and trust the Holy Ghost that's at work in us. That listen, God, I know I've reached my capacity, but you don't have a capacity. God, I've reached my limit, but God, you don't have a limit. God, I'm too tired. But God, you never sleep nor slumber. We got to flip the switch if we're going to walk in this mindset and this confidence that we've already won. And Paul says, listen, I've discovered that nothing is impossible. Jesus is coming down from the Mount of Transfiguration with a couple of his disciples, and he finds that there's a squabble going on. And so Jesus inquires, what in the world is going on? I left a couple of my disciples down here. Why is there some mess going on? I'm up here being transfigurated, getting my Mr. Clean Shine on, and I come down the mountain and there's nonsense going on. And so he inquires, and his father comes to him and says, Jesus, I brought my son to your disciples, and he's been plagued by this demon, but they could not cast him out. And Jesus is like, what you mean they couldn't cast him out? Well, he's been throwing my boy in the water, in the fire. He's been convulsing on the ground, and no matter what they said, they even called on your name a few times, but the demon wouldn't come out. And Jesus looks at him and says, do you believe? And the father says, I believe. But you got to help my unbelief. In other words, he says, I have a certain measure of faith, but I believe there's more. And so I need you to take my measure of faith, and I need you to magnify that faith. And I think it impressed Jesus, because Jesus says, listen, all things are possible to those who believe. If you really believe what's in there, then let's go ahead and activate that thing. And so Jesus speaks to the young boy, and he casts the demon out of him. And his disciples, feeling embarrassed, disappointed, discouraged, they come to him later in private. They want to ask him in public, and they're like, Master, how come we couldn't do it? And Jesus, in the M. Goodman translation, says, you forgot to flip your switch. See, you was trying to cast the demon out in your name. And the problem is the demons don't respect your name. See, they may know you, but they have to bow to my name. And so stop trying to do it in your strength. Stop trying to do it with your reputation. Stop trying to do it with your name. Stop trying to do it with your connection. And I need you to activate the switch, because I'm the connection above every connection. I'm the source above every source. You got to do it in my strength. His strength helps us to realize new possibility. So again, his strength helps us to redefine success. His strength helps us to realize new possibility. And last but not least, his strength is a reliable source of power. His strength is a reliable source of power. What do I mean? The latter part of verse 13, he says, through him, through Christ in the King James, that strengthens me. Through him, that strengthens me. His strength is a reliable source. Now, why do I say that? What exactly does Paul mean when he says, strengthen me? We know that word strength, the root of it is strong, and so we understand that concept. Well, what exactly does that mean? Well, the Greek word is endunamo, and it means to fill with power. To fill with power. So Paul says the reason I can handle this situation is because I am full of God's power. I'm full of God's power. I would argue, and I need somebody to get me a cup. Brother Kendrick, if you run to the back office, there's should be a stack of cups. Can you grab that for me? Thank you so much. In Dunamo, to fill with power. Paul says, listen, the reason I can do what I'm doing is because I am full of not myself, but I'm full of his power. I want to ask you this morning, what are you full of? Because depending on what you're full of determines how far you can go. The reason some of us feel defeated is because we're full of other things outside of the power of God. And Paul says, because I'm full of the power of God, prison ain't nothing to me. Because I'm full of the power of God, beatings is nothing to me. Because I'm full of the power of God, watch this, even death means nothing to me. Thank you so much. And let me use you real quick. Stand right here. Open that up for me. All right. I want you to fill me with this water. Fill me with the water. Oh, snap, I gotta take care of this. I need you to come fill me with some water. Lord, they're chirping at the workplace. I gotta take care of that. Hey, God, I need you to fill me with your power. Lord, the key is tripping again. Lord, fill me with your power.
Work, sir. Work, sir.
Lord, they're talking about letting folks go at the job. Fill me with your power. Man, Lord, I lost my investors for my business. Fill me with your power.
Thank you, Jesus.
Oh, Lord, they talking about cancer. I don't know what I'm going to do. God, you got to fill me. I'm running low. You got to fill me with your power. I ain't going to church. I'm going to church. Here's the problem. I'm not staying still enough to be filled. So here's the problem. Here's the problem. As I start to pour out in these various places, as I start to pour out on these various people, I start to run on fumes. And I come to God and watch this. I get just enough to go feel somebody else. And the reason some of us are so stressed out, we feel defeated, because we're pouring and we're not staying long enough to get poured into. My wife was listening to somebody preach this morning, and they said something about their pastor. They said, I'm so glad to be under leadership that understands the importance of rest. I'm getting delivered this morning. I'm so glad that I have leadership that believes in rest. And we sometimes as Christians have a savior complex. We like, Lord, if I don't do it, it won't get done. If I don't go, nobody will be there. If I don't do it, it's going to fall through. Lord, they can't call nobody else in the family. I'm the only one. And the problem with that is, once you die, they'll find somebody else to get poured into. You get just enough to pour out. Whereas if you would stay and get filled, you could do a lot more. I'm preaching to myself. And so Paul says, listen, I've gotten to the place where I understand that I can't pour what I don't have. And I don't care who's calling me. If I don't got it, you can't get it. I don't care what they say we used to do together in the past. I ain't got it now. And until I sit and get filled, I'm not responding. When I see you in the store, don't ask me, did I get your text message? I got it, but I ain't have it. When I see you at church, don't look at me funny as I'm worshiping God. I got your message, but I ain't have it. But watch this. Let me stand here and get it so that I can now come back to you and give it. Paul says I'm full. Thank you so much. He says I'm full of his power. I don't just have enough of his power to get from here to here to here to here, but no, I'm so full of his power that I can go from here, here, and not be drained. The blessings of the Lord maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. Some of us are saying, God has given me this assignment, but if God gave you that assignment, he would have filled you for it. Some of the assignments we're assigning ourselves to because we try to be the savior that we're trying to preach to somebody. And he said, no, I just called you to preach it. I didn't call you to be it. You preach them to me. If I be lifted up, I'll draw all men to me. Your job is to point them in my direction. And when you point them in my direction, I'll make sure they get what they need. His strength is a reliable source of power. My prayer for you today is that you will leave out of here knowing you have the victory and not allow the next disappointment of somebody else to make you feel anything less. Because the disappointment of other people has fueled some of us to drive ourselves right over the edge. And again, the sad part about it is once you go over the edge, they'll find somebody else to drive. It's a reliable source of power. Now, again, it means to fill with power, but as you get into the word study, because this is a very pictorial language, it means to share or impart ability. So it's not just to fill with power, but in essence, what Paul is saying is God shares his power with me. God shares his ability. In other words, when I'm running low on power, when I'm running low on ability, I can hit God up and say, God, let me hold something. Y'all got them cousins, they call you up, they don't call to check on you, see how you doing, but anytime a text comes through, they like, let me hold something. Anytime a call comes through, let me hold something. They'll find you on Facebook if they don't have your number and jump in your inbox and say, let me hold something. What they're saying is, listen, I don't have something and I need what you have. And I'm so glad that we're not like a worse cousin when it comes to God. What Paul says is anytime I find myself in a low place, anytime I find myself in a lonely place, anytime I find myself in an uncomfortable place, anytime I find myself in a painful place, I can reach up to God and say, God, let me hold something.
Yes, Lord.
I remember going into a store, and this was an older car that I had before this modern technology where things are automatic. And I'm going into this particular store, and I go in the store, and I'm in there for a while. I'm doing a little shopping, I'm picking up a few things, and when I come out of the store, my car wouldn't start. I'm turning it, but my car won't start. And then it clicks to me that I left my lights on. So in essence, my lights were running for no reason. My lights were on so long that finally my car had enough and just shut off. So what happened was I had to reach out because no one in the parking lot had jumper cables to help me out in my situation. I had to call somebody. I had to call my insurance, and my insurance sent somebody to give me a jump so that I could get on my way. What am I saying? I could not find a reliable source in the parking lot. I asked a couple people, do you got some jumper cables? Can I get a jump from you? Will you pull your car around and help a brother out? I could not find a reliable source. But I was able to call somebody who whenever I call, and here's the great thing about my insurance company, they're open 24 hours a day. No matter what time of day I call them, they will send some help. They that call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. I love that scripture doesn't say call upon them in the morning, call upon them in the afternoon, call upon them at night. No, whenever you call upon the name of the Lord, you shall be saved. I called my insurance, and sure enough, within a particular time frame, and it gave me little text alerts and updates to let me know how far they were. He came and he connected his power to me, and he let me hold something. See, watch this. Some of you are like my car. You've been on so long that if you're not careful, life gonna turn you off.
My God. My God.
And when life turns you off, you better have a reliable source you can connect to, because some of the folks who are pushing you to stay on can't give you power when you go off. Paul says, listen, the reason I can stay on the way I stay on is because I'm connected to a reliable source. That when I've been on too long, I can reach up to God and say, God, let me hold something. God, I'm out of peace. Let me hold something. God, I'm out of joy. Let me hold something. God, I'm out of clear thinking. Let me hold something. God, I'm out of love. Let me hold something. God, I'm out of patience. Let me hold something. And here's the thing. I may not be able to get it from my mama. I may not be able to get it from my boo. I may not be able to get it from either one of y'all. But anytime I call on God, God will show up. Yes. And this is what Paul is trying to get them to understand. The reason I can walk in the confidence that I've already won is because his strength is in me. And it's in his strength that I always have a reliable source to pull from. So I don't have to pull from my own strength. And watch this. Even when I misuse my strength on folks who don't deserve it, even when I misuse my strength on folks who don't appreciate it, I have a reliable source. See, what frustrates most of us is we try to get back from those we gave to. And the problem is most of them can't give us back what we've given them on their best day. That's why they came to you in the first place. And we will get disappointed. We will get discouraged because we're like, why don't you love me the way I love you? No, they love you. They just don't have your capacity. And so stop expecting your capacity from people who can't carry what you carry. You have a reliable source of power. And all we have to do is call on him. The reason we can say confidently that we've already won is because he strengthens us. And because he strengthens us, I don't define success based on the world's standards. I don't define success based on people I know standards. I don't define success based on what I see out of my mirror, but I define success based on what I see the window. I base it on what I see in the mirror every morning. Because I can look at myself and say that I look more like Jesus today than I did yesterday, I am winning. The Bible lets us know, we talked about it Wednesday, that the whole purpose, our destiny, is to be conformed to the image of Christ. And here's the good news. If I look like Christ, that means I'm walking in his blessing. The Bible says we are heirs and co-heirs with Christ, which means I have access. Somebody say, I have access. See, y'all are hung up on accessories. I want access. See, accessories don't open doors, but access does. And so if I look like Christ, I get the access Christ has. And so you and I are not fighting for the same thing. I'm fighting to look like Christ so I can get what Christ get. You fighting to have the things of this world, and you still won't have to find Christ. His strength helps us to redefine success. His strength helps us to realize a new possibility. I would argue and put it to test this week that the moment you find yourself up against a brick wall and you're saying, this is impossible, I cannot do this, I want you to check your strength. Are you doing it in your strength? Are you doing it with your resources? Are you doing it with your patience? Are you doing it with your love? Are you doing it with your intellect? Or are you doing it with what God has to offer you? His strength helps us to realize new possibilities. I can do all things. There is nothing that I cannot do so long as I'm doing it in his strength. So what that means is I do all that I can do in my strength, but the moment my strength ain't enough, I stop doing it because I'm going to get frustrated and I'm going to be ready to quit. And I say, God, I need you to let me hold something. Which brings us to point number 3. His strength is a reliable source. Listen, I can reach out to certain folks when I'm in a hard time and they can't help me. But every time I call on God, he's a reliable source. He's a reliable source. When I've been on too long,
Yes.
he's a reliable source. I want to encourage some of you to just turn yourself off before life turns you off.
My God.
I'm preaching to myself.
Oh,
Turn yourself off before life turns you off. Because people will use your light until you don't have any more light to give.
Yes.
Turn yourself off before life turns you off. But if you find yourself in that predicament where life has turned you off, don't call your neighbor, don't call your mama. Call upon the name of the Lord.
Yes.
He's better than AAA. He's better than Progressive. He's better than Geico. Call on the name of the Lord. His strength is a reliable source.